Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members. Want to thank the chairman and the committee for working with me to make this bill a better bill and also accept the committee's amendments today. Assembly Bill 1691 seeks to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of the Enhanced Fleet Modernization Program, known as the EFMP and the EFMP Plus Up Program. The EFMP is designed to help disadvantaged communities replace vehicles that are polluting the environment by providing them with cleaner vehicles. The plus up component of the EFMP program is an extra incentive that works on a sliding scale, rewarding low-income purchasers with more money to help clean the environment up. The current program does not have a requirement to prevent fraudulent or clean up backlog applications who might be waiting on a list, which has resulted in a variety of results that have impacts on our districts and our community. This bill will establish a common framework for the EFMP and Cleanup Plus program so that the program operates are more efficient and better equipped to replace the vehicles that damage our environment most of all. In addition, this bill will ensure that vehicles that are worse and harmful for our communities are targeted through this program, the Plus Up program, that will also prioritize those particular vehicles to moving them up to the front of the line. The public health outcomes of low-income communities, such as my district, will certainly benefit from this particular regulation being brought to bear. In addition to this program, this will help also communities who are disadvantaged by pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. It will allow those individual purchasers to get out of those vehicles and also get into a more cleaning, efficient vehicle, and also move those individuals up to the front of the line so that they can also move closer to helping our environment. Mr. Chair and members, I respectfully ask for your aye vote and stand ready to answer any questions you may have regarding this particular bill, Assembly Bill 1691.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Any members of the public that would like to testify in support of the author's bill? Seeing none, any members of the public that would like to testify in opposition to the author's bill?
Okay.
I have a first by Kenson True, and do I hear a second? Second. Mr. Daly.
Thank
Tom
you.
Daly. The second. Seeing none, any question? No opposition to the bill. Any questions from the committee of the author? Mr. Gibson, would you like to close?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members. Again, I respectfully ask for aye vote. I think this will certainly help disadvantaged communities in California, especially those who are driving 15-year-old vehicles with 75,000 or better or greater miles. This will move our community in a step in the right direction to help clean our environment and also get individuals out of badly needed vehicles that should be removed from our streets. So again, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
So thank you, Mr. Gibson, for bringing your bill to our committee today. These vehicle retirement and replacement programs are working really well right now. Anything we can do to improve how they function benefits everyone, and not only the environment, but also freeing up family income on making these repairs on these old cars so that they can get to work and all it entails. So this is an admirable program that helps everybody. For this reason, I'll be supporting your bill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing it forward. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass as amended to the Assembly Appropriations Committee. Frazier?
Aye.
Frazier, aye. Linder?
Aye.
Linder, aye. Baker? Aye. Baker, aye. Bloom? Aye. Bloom, aye. Brown? Chu? Chu, aye. Daly? Aye. Daly, aye. Dodd? Aye. Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia? Gomez? Kim? Kim not voting. Mathis? Aye. Mathis, I. Medina.
Thank you.
Melendez. Melendez, no. Nazarian. O'Donnell.
Your bill has 8. We'll hold the roll open for absent members. Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day. Assembly Bill 1908, Mr. Harper. So we'll do 1908, please, first, and then you have 1910 after that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
Mr. Chairman and members, I'm here today to present Assembly Bill 1908, this bipartisan measure, and I am pleased to have Assemblyman Mike Gatto as a co-author on this measure. Thank you. Similar to that of Gatto's AB 210 of last year, that this committee passed out unanimously, AB 1908 would prohibit the creation of new high-occupancy vehicle lanes unless they are only enforced during times of heavy commuter traffic. My bill would also require Caltrans to report to the legislature on the impact of lowering the HOV hours to only to peak traffic hours. In Southern California, HOV lanes are in effect 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, unlike in Northern California, where HOV lanes are only enforced during peak traffic times. Furthermore, double yellow lines have been added to prevent drivers from merging into and out of HOV lanes at their own discretion. 24-hour enforcement of HOV lanes has caused them to be underutilized during off-peak traffic hours. This is especially annoying to many and other Southern Californians when a late-night accident or construction on the right-hand lane forces drivers to sit in traffic while the carpool lane is empty. This lane restriction causes congestion of our highways, which increases commute times and vehicle emissions, as well as causing confusion for motorists between Northern and Southern California. This completely undermines the goal of carpool lanes. These lanes were initially intended to increase freeway capacity, reward those who share the ride to work, and reduce exhaust. Sitting in traffic in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day with an empty HOV lane doesn't meet any of these goals. One thing Southern Californians don't need is more traffic congestion. AB 1908 is a simple way to alleviate highway congestion throughout Southern California. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Any other witnesses from the public that would like to testify in support of the author's bill?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members, Tim Chang with the Auto Club of Southern California. We've supported previous efforts, bills by Mr. Gatto on this subject matter, and we urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to testify in support of the author's bill? Seeing none, any members of the public that would like to testify in opposition to the author's bill? Sir, state your name and who you're representing, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Andrew Antwi today here on behalf of the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority. And before I begin, I'd like to apologize to the author because our letter, which was dated April 4th, didn't make it to the committee in time for processing and being listed on the analysis. But we do oppose this measure on the basis that we believe the operational details of HOV lanes should not be a matter of statute, should be something that's available to current law, which authorizes Caltrans to work with regional transportation agencies to set the operational characteristics. We also point out that the 24-hour restriction of HOV lanes in Southern California has been a longstanding practice. We might even argue that making this change in statute might lead to more confusion for those Southern California commuters who really kind of travel through a very, very different commute pattern. The commute patterns in Southern California have been set for many, many years, and in some cases along specific corridors aren't limited to AM commute peak time or PM commute peak time. Those of you that travel on the 91 or the 10 or the 405 know that it's just not that simple when it comes to the traffic patterns in Southern California. And we have some experience with changing the operational characteristics of an HOV lane in Southern California. There was a bad experience where this committee approved legislation in prior years to change the operational details and had to hurry back maybe a year and a half later to do a bill to undo it. And so the practice of making this operational change and then potentially having to come back, I know the bill calls for a report back to the legislature, but by then, Angelinos and those who are visiting the region might be stuck in traffic unnecessarily. The whole point of HOV lanes is to move people through a corridor efficiently, not look at what we call the empty lane effect, where it looks like there's few vehicles moving through, but because they have multiple occupants, they're actually moving more people through the corridor. And so there are times when it does appear that the HOV lane is not operating efficiently. And if there are cases where a specific HOV lane is not operating specifically, there's a process in current law to allow Caltrans to work with the regional agency to make that change. We don't think that this should be done through legislation. Respectfully, we oppose. We'd like to work with the author on any problems specifically in his district or anywhere else in the Southern California region where we play a role at LA Metro to try and come up with another solution besides state law. We wouldn't want to find ourselves in a situation where we're running back here for a bill to make a change because of the very complicated traffic patterns on the highways in Southern California.
Thank you, sir. Any other members of the public that would like to testify in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, any members of the committee have questions of the author? Ms. Melendez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Harper, who's going to determine at what point during the day the HOV lanes would be opened up to all traffic?
That would still be something that would be determined by studies with Caltrans.
So Caltrans would do some sort of traffic study, figure out that between the hours of 2 in the morning and 6 in the morning, it's not necessary to have it, and then post signs accordingly?
Similarly, that's what's done with Northern California freeways. Yes.
Okay, I just want to be clear about that, because while your opposition brings up some valid points that you could cause further confusion, and I certainly respect and understand what he's trying to say, I do, as a Southern California driver who absolutely, I don't know that, is there ever not traffic in LA ever? I've
Sometimes.
never seen that ever.
10 p.m.
Only when the president's in town, I guess. Huh? There is the traffic situation in our neck of the woods is much different than it is in Northern California. So as I supported Mr. Gatto's bill last year, I will be supporting yours. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you.
Ms. Kim, you have a question of the author?
I just wanted to ask, because according to the current law I'm reading, isn't there already a safety valve in it that if there is an adverse impact on safety, traffic conditions, or the environment by limiting the use of high occupancy vehicle lanes only during the hours of heavy commuter traffic as provided, the department may submit to the Assembly Committee on Transportation and the Senate Committee on Transportation and Housing a notice of that determination and of the intent to reinstate it back to 24-hour high occupancy vehicle lanes. So to me, it's pretty clear. Right, there is a safety valve.
We're trying to cover for that, yes.
Right? Okay, just wanted to confirm.
Any other members of the committee that have a question of the author? Seeing none, Mr. Harper, would you like to close?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I, like many Southern Californians, argue that it's more confusing for us to have these two different processes between Northern and Southern California. We're not two states. We are one state of California. Voters ask me, when interacting and talking about traffic all the time, is why are these restrictions even in place by having it 24 hours, by having the double lines and not having the access, especially when people drive in Northern California and see the ease of being able to use those lanes with the fewer restrictions. By streamlining HOV lines in Southern California, drivers will be able to utilize all lanes during non-peak times, and we will be able to reduce the congestion and confusion on our freeways, as well as get people out of traffic. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. So we do have a first by Mr. Mathis and a second by Mr. Linder. Mr. Harper, I understand your concern about trying to relieve congestion, but I think your bill conflicts with the best thinking on how to operate an HOV system. So I won't be supporting and I'm voting no today on your bill. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Assembly Appropriations Committee. Frazier?
No.
Frazier, no. Linder?
Aye.
Linder, aye. Baker? Aye. Baker, aye. Bloom? Bloom, no. Brown? Brown, no. Chu? Chu, no. Daly? Daly, no. Dodd? No. Dodd, no. Eduardo Garcia? Gomez? Kim? Kim, I. Mathis? Mathis, I. Medina? Medina, no. Melendez?
Yes.
Melendez, I. Nazarian? O'Donnell?
That bill has 5. We'll leave the roll open for absent members. Mr. Harper, would you please proceed with Assembly Bill 1910?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'm also here to present Assembly Bill 1910 to let Californians weigh in on the taxes that we are asking them to pay. As the committee is well aware, California has neglected its roads, highways for years. According to Caltrans, more than 15% of the state's 50,000 miles of state highways are characterized as distressed and require substantial reconstruction. These bad roads are increasing commute times and wear and tear on cars. There would be easy fixes available. We could invest surplus state revenue in state transportation infrastructure, repay borrowed funds from transportation accounts, prioritize roads over high-speed rail, and eliminate waste at the Department of Transportation. Despite this, some lawmakers claim that we need to raise taxes to fix the roads. But Californians already pay the highest gas taxes and gas prices in the nation. The price at the pump includes a $1.3 billion hidden gas tax as a part of California's cap-and-trade program. Low-income Californians end up bearing the brunt of these taxes because they drive less fuel-efficient vehicles and commute longer distances to work. The Fix Our Roads Act would place an advisory question on the 2016 ballot to allow voters to state whether or not the state legislature should be putting these regressive taxes in place instead of returning vehicle weight fees and using other existing sources of funds. I requestfully ask for an aye vote.
Any other members of the public that would like to testify in support of the author's bill? Seeing none, any members of the public that would like to testify in opposition to the author's bill? Seeing none, any members of the committee have questions of the author? Seeing none, Mr. Harper, would you like to close?
I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
So thank you, Mr. Harper. I can tell you, after traveling up and down the state for the last 7-8 months, beating the drum for transportation funding, I applaud you trying. Only transportation funding were as easy as you suggest it is, we'd have it in the bag. When you state that we have the highest amount of taxes, gas taxes, and what, we also have the highest amount of infrastructure in the nation to take care of. So it kind of goes hand in hand. With that, I won't be supporting your bill, and I applaud you for your efforts. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Would you please call the roll? Oh, excuse me. We do have a first by Mr. Linder and a second by Mr. Mathis. Thank you for that. And Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
The motion is due pass to the Assembly Elections and Redistricting Committee. Frazier?
No.
Frazier, no. Linder? Baker? Aye. Baker, aye. Bloom? No. Bloom, no. Brown? Chu? No. Chu, no. Daly? No. Daly, no. Dodd? No. Dodd, no. Eduardo Garcia? Gomez? Kim? Aye. Kim, aye. Mathis? Aye. Mathis, aye. Medina? No. Medina, no. Melendez? Aye. Melendez, aye. Nazarian? O'Donnell?
Mr. Harper, that has 4. We'll leave the roll open for absent members. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your consideration, Mr. Chairman.
So we're going to do a little housekeeping right now. File item number 7, AB 1714, has been pulled by the author for your records, committee members. We're going on to move to Mr. Travisell on AB 1814, please. Good afternoon. Please proceed when you're ready, sir.
I'm here today to present AB 1814 for your consideration. AB 1814 would very simply take our 87 roadside stops and allow public-private partnerships on them. California currently has 87 of these, as I mentioned. They're a vital tool for California's transportation. Our bill, AB 1814, would allow the private sector to begin to develop these so we can actually use them for something other than parking and potentially using a restroom that probably isn't kept up very well. Governor Brown stated that we have a goal of reaching 1.5 million zero-emission vehicles on the road by the year 2025 and 1 million by the year 2020. Currently, we only have 190,000 vehicles on our highways. The problem with this is the reason why we don't have more and the reason why we're having so much difficulty getting this number is you don't have the charging stations you need. By privatizing our public rest stops, we would create a network throughout the state. This would also help reach the governor's stated goal of 80% greenhouse gas emission reductions by the year 2050 by having an increased network of electric charging stations. Caltrans has identified range confidence, or finding an available fueling charging station, as a major inhibitor to meeting these goals. So very simply, AB 1814 allows California to create a green infrastructure throughout the state. By putting in electric vehicle charging and fueling stations and rest stops, consumers will have a boost in range confidence, and we can move closer to hitting our goal of zero-emission vehicles and more zero-emission vehicles on the road, as well as more being sold and more being used by ordinary Californians. In addition, for trucking, the trucking industry includes about 110,000 for-hire carriers, 350,000 independent owner-operators with combined annual revenues of about $200 billion. These truck drivers have a real issue finding safe and convenient parking when waiting to drop off shipments or on rest periods. AB 1814 would facilitate creating safer and more parking areas for truck drivers throughout the creation of the state highway account, where a percentage of the profit from these potential public-private partnership relationships in the rest areas would go to maintaining and creating new safety roadside stops. California, as we all know, and as was just mentioned by the previous bills that unfortunately died a fiery death, has a transportation funding problem. By creating more public-private partnerships in rest stops, California will be revitalizing our rest stops without using public funds. The revenue that we receive from this would absolutely go towards maintaining these rest stops and increasing our overall transportation funding. So if we're serious about doing that, if we're serious about lowering our emissions and getting more of these electric vehicles on the road, it would make sense that we use these 87 existing rest stops for a higher purpose. The bill clearly creates more opportunity for California businesses by increasing convenience. It's an overall benefit to drivers and improves the current transportation funding issues. According to the Strategic Recommendation Safety Roadside Rest Area Master Plan prepared by the California Department of Transportation, a total of 22 highway segments were identified as being in need of new rest area services. 11 of those are high priority regions, and 9 of the rest stops are potential candidates for closure due to low utilization rates. So we have 87 assets here, and they're completely underutilized. They need repair, they need help, and as was just mentioned by the chair, California has no real money to do anything about this. This would be a way where we can use private sector dollars for a greater public good and create a lot more public convenience in the process, as well as build out a green infrastructure so we can get more zero-emission vehicles on the road. Very simply, AB 1814 would stimulate our economy through generating millions of dollars through lease revenue, which the state does not receive currently, and new sales tax revenue. This bill would also save the state millions of dollars through deferred maintenance costs, which would be paid through these funds and not through other state funds. So very clearly, there's lots and lots of reasons to privatize our 87 rest stops. This concept was brought forward originally about 17 years ago by a then Assembly member, now current Senator, Bob Hertzberg, in 1999. I would call on the legislature, not only in this committee, but all legislators, and I don't care what party you're in, to continue that good work. We have 87 rest stops that we're not using for anything right now. Let's use them for something. I just took a road trip. I traveled about just shy of 1,000 miles this weekend, the last 2-3 days, right? I passed a ton of rest stops. I didn't stop at one of them. And why didn't I stop? Because there's nothing there for me. There's no reason for any driver to stop there. So if drivers don't stop, they don't spend money. If we leave these as they are right now, 9 are going to be closed. That's 11% of our current capacity we're closing because we're just leaving money on the table. There's no reason to do this, and thank you for moving my bill. There's no reason to do this, and to fix this problem, let's pass this bill out of committee.
Thank you for that, Mr. Travis Allen. Do we have any other members of the public that would like to testify in support of the author's bill? Seeing none, Any members of the public that would like to testify in opposition to the author's bill? Seeing none, any questions of the committee of the author? Would you like to close?
I'd love to. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Very simply, the governor has stated these very lofty goals. Now, I think they're a bit too lofty. As a matter of fact, I don't think they make any sense for California's economy, and they're going to drive poor people into ever greater depths of poverty. And we talk about the shrinking middle class. This certainly does not help the middle class. But, if we are really serious, as I am, I'm a coastal Southern California guy. I'm a surfer. I think the environment's a wonderful thing. I have no problem with oil and gas. I think oil and gas is still the future, as it always was, until we get something like fusion. But in the meantime, if we have these wonderful electric vehicles and they are accessible to us, even though they might be a little bit expensive for the ordinary Californian, why don't we stimulate the use of those by creating an infrastructure statewide where we actually can use these, and we have this range confidence that the governor's office has been talking about. Let's use AB 1814 to create a green infrastructure, both Republicans and Democrats. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen, I will not be supporting your bill today. Assuming we could develop a privatized roadside rest, we still have a federal prohibition of doing so. And so I think we need to look at other opportunities down the road on the federal end going forward. But with that, as I mentioned, I won't be supporting your bill. Madam Secretary, we do have the motion of Assemblymember Baker and the second by Assemblymember Mathis. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Assembly Appropriations Committee. Frazier?
No.
Frazier, no. Linder? Baker? Aye. Baker, aye. Bloom? No. Bloom, no. Brown? Chu? Chu, no. Daly? Daly not voting. Dodd? Eduardo Garcia? Gomez? Kim? Mathis? Aye. Mathis, aye. Medina? No. Medina, no. Melendez? Melendez, aye. Nazarian? O'Donnell.
The bill has 3. We'll keep the roll open for absent members. Thank you, Mr. Allen. Mr. Cooley, thank you for your patience, sir.